Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Alex and Dish Talk Football. And today, of course, it happened during the week. Everybody's still talking about it. The semifinals of the Champions League between Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain with advantage Paris of 6-5 in aggregate. Alex, a lot of people still talking about what happened with the Portuguese referee, with the Portuguese players of Paris, the second yellow card to the Nunes, the penalty to the handball or non-penalty to the handball of João Neves. But a lot of people are not talking about how I would say he gave a master class in Allianz Arena. I think in
Absolutely.
Parc de Princes, Parc de Princes, I think it was more balanced. Bayern could have won, Paris could have won. It could have been a tie. But in the Allianz Arena, the way PSG started, scoring three at the third minute with a perfect, beautiful counter-attack with Kvaratskhelia serving again Osman Dembele, and then Bayern only scored in the 94th minute to tie the game. They couldn't find another way to score the goal. What happened?
Well, I think the whole thing was a tactical masterpiece by Luis Enrique. This is my opinion. In my opinion, Luis Enrique has now even overtaken Pep Guardiola. And now who thought I'd ever say that? Because Pep Guardiola, for me, till now has been the best coach ever. But I think Luis Enrique has now taken over from Pep Guardiola. Seriously, are we watching the GOAT of coaches? I think so. He's built for the second time, as we said a few days ago, he built the Barcelona side in 2015, which won the Champions League. And now he's built, of course, PSG, who won the Champions League last time, and they're going to go probably back to back. We don't know. The final is against Arsenal. The Munich performance was something out of this world. The tactics, I thought, were even better than the result. The result 1-1, of course. This wasn't luck. This was domination by design, I'd say. And the question is, where does Luis Enrique rank historically in your view?
Yeah, I think it's a good topic, a good conversation because most of our viewers and maybe most of the football fans will say Luis Enrique is a very good coach, but in Barca where he already had Neymar, Messi, Suarez, and other players, and in Paris he has oil money and he's never been to Premier League. He never coached the Premier League side. But in both campaigns last year and this year, I wouldn't say, with all the respect, he didn't beat English teams. He swept English
swept
teams.
them aside,
Premier League
yeah.
side, swept. Premier League champions. A lot of people forget Liverpool are still the Premier League champions. In the 180 minutes of football, I remember 2 or 3 shots on goal from Liverpool in 180 minutes of football. 0 goals scored, 4 goals conceded, and it could have been worse in Paris. It could have been worse. I think Luis Enrique, it's difficult because Guardiola has made Premier League his own Farmers League, a very well-known name calling Farmers League in France or Germany, Bundesliga or League 1. But the fact is, in 8 or 9 years, Guardiola has won 6 or 7 Premier League. I think that's a lot. He only lost 2 Premier League for Liverpool, Klopp and Arne Slot, and let's see this year for Arteta. So I think Luis Enrique,
you think he's
in terms of
overtaken
winning,
him now?
let's say a tie. Because Pep Guardiola, 3 Champions League, I think, 2 with Barcelona and 1 with Manchester City, which he put a lot of money into to win the Champions League, and with Erling Haaland, he had to bring him from BVB, from Dortmund to win the Champions League. But I think it's there. The name has to be in the conversation on the table. He sits at the same table of Jose Mourinho, I think, and Pep Guardiola. For me, the biggest. Not Alex Ferguson, not another coach, and never forget the name Unai Emery, who is on the way to win the 5th Europa League. Don't forget him.
Yeah.
Don't forget about him.
Let's look at the tactics on Wednesday night in Munich at the Allianz Arena. One thing fascinated me really. I called it the Safonov Olise trap. Now, this was really fascinating. I don't know if a lot of people realize this. Now, we all know that Michael Olise tortured PSG in Paris. Olise was unstoppable in Paris. Now,
and Luis Diaz.
Yeah. And Luis Enrique realized this, of course, and so he built this trap in Munich to try and nullify Michael Olise. And so PSG keeper Safonov was told to deliberately keep playing the ball into touch on Olise's side. So what happened? Bayern got the throw in, and that's exactly where PSG wanted them. So they instantly overloaded Olize's side with 5 or 6 players. No freedom for Olize. Olize disappeared. That was, I thought, a very interesting bit of elite coaching, turning Bayern's possession from the throw-in into a PSG weapon. I thought that was very interesting. I'd even call it tactical violence. PSG's press was outrageous. Bayern simply aren't used to being bullied by teams like that in the Bundesliga. And there was so much unguarded space when Kvaratskhelia ran down the left wing and played the ball to Dembele, who was completely unmarked in the very early stages of the game to put PSG 1-0 up. And that goal basically decided the tie very early. I mean, the PSG players, when they pressed, another instantly covered. They were like a machinery. No player was ever out of position. That's the amazing thing. Even Ousmane Dembele, he was marking Pavlovic. All through the game, he was blocking the passes to Pavlovic, and that shows me another bit of brilliant coaching from Enrique. He's made even the big names, the big egos, really work on the pitch for him, and that, I think, is something that he really has done. He's getting even these big personalities to work like a machine for him on the pitch, something which at Real Madrid isn't happening with Kylian Mbappe, but that's a completely different story, isn't it? Joshua Kimmich's got
But that's how you win. That's how you win. That's why
Yeah.
that's how you win Champions League. That's how you win the Champions League. But don't forget, Alex, of course, masterclass from Luis Enrique, especially on the Olise side. But in the first 15 minutes, Nuno Mendes already had a yellow card. He was guarding again with a lot of difficulties, Mikel Olise. And the moment Olise completely disappeared is when Fabian Ruiz doubled with Nuno Mendes, protecting Nuno Mendes. Because normally we see Nuno Mendes attacking the other goal. We saw this last campaign. We saw this until the semifinal. We didn't see this, even Hakimi attacking on Luis Diaz's side, and we didn't see Nuno Mendes attacking a lot on Olise's side. But when Fabian Ruiz connected with Nuno Mendes and helped Nuno Mendes, that's where Olise didn't have a guy to follow him. Konrad Laimer is not really a right back. And for me, in the more than 180 minutes of this masterpiece of unique football, elite football in Paris and in Allianz and Munich, was Stanisic. I think he doesn't have the quality to play for Bayern. Doesn't have the quality to fill in the shoes of anyone on the bench. Amazingly, of course, Davis, we just found out a few days ago he had another injury, another setback. That I don't believe that another player like Rafael Guerreiro or Kim Min-jae adapted. Let's adapt to Pamecano on the left, where he sometimes played with Nagelsmann in Leipzig. I think there was a better solution for Stanisic than Stanisic to play because of the Croatian, I counted. We saw this. Besides the penalty of Dembele and the header, the amazing header from João Neves in the first leg because Musiala was too good to jump. All the other goals, all the other 4 goals are on Stanisic's side because he's not marking the guy. Tell me, Alex, how is a Stanisic guy playing for Bayern in the second leg of the semifinal at the 3rd minute? He's leaving the player alone, who's none other than the Ballon d'Or, to guard the goal where Neuer is. Why
completely
are you not marking your men?
Yeah.
What is this? This
Talking
is not a Bayern
about
Munich
Neuer.
player.
Talking about Neuer, thanks to Neuer, Bayern remained in the game. He pulled off 3
I agree.
brilliant saves. Otherwise, PSG would have been out of sight. 3 world-class saves by 40-year-old Manuel Neuer. But let's talk about Bayern's real problem. I think it's the high line. Now, since early April, Bayern Munich have conceded 20 goals or more. And today there was an interview with Tom Bischoff, their young player who they got from Hoffenheim, and he said, we just don't do the small basic things anymore. We don't do the counter-pressing like we used to after losing the ball. Now, that didn't go down too well with Vincent Kompany, that interview, but I think Bischoff has a point there. The small basic things, maybe Bayern, of course, are beginning to tire. But let me come back to the high line. Vincent Kompany's high line is very risky, I think. But here's one thing, Antonio. Bayern have always played with a high line. Jupp Heynckes in 2013, the brilliant coach Jupp Heynckes, he played with a high line. Guardiola, Hansi Flick, Pep Guardiola. So this aggressive DNA is part of Bayern Munich's style. The difference, though, between 2013 is the personnel. Remember, in 2013, they had defenders Jerome Boateng and Dante, the Brazilian. These were two giant central defenders, like a brick wall. And I'm afraid to say, Upamecano and Jonathan Tah, they don't inspire the same fear, I think. So
They're not world class. I agree. They're not world class.
Elite teams in the Champions League, they expose Bayern Munich's high line much more than in the Bundesliga. So is the high line impossible to survive in modern Champions League days? What do you think?
You can ask that same question with Hansi Flick. He did the exact same thing in 2020. But look at this four line with Joshua Kimmich on the right, sometimes playing in the middle with Thiago Alcantara. On the left, Alfonso Davies just appearing. He was transferred from MLS. I remember still in January before the pandemic, and he was a left winger. He was not even a left back. David Alaba came to the middle, played with Boateng. Today, Barcelona has João Cancelo on the right, or Koundé, it depends, or Cancelo on the left, and then you have Kubarsi, and they always change the second player. They are not the same as that Bayern of Hansi Flick. He doesn't have Alaba. He doesn't have Boateng. Boateng, a World Cup champion, 2014. He knows, even if people don't consider him world class, he has experience. And that line, we remember that 8-2 against Barcelona. You remember this, of course. Everybody remembers, whoever saw the game. At the time, Barcelona were on top of Bayern. I even remember Bayern scoring the first goal and then on counter because, okay, Messi, Suarez, they were not at their peak of physique, but they scored because of an own goal of Alaba because he was running back and didn't have the chance to curve his body and put it out of the goal. But I saw him laughing. I remember I saw a smile and I said, these guys made a mistake, but they know they are better. They're going to asphyxiate. They're going to asphyxiate. They're going to kill Barcelona. And then the rest is history. 8-2. Hansi Flick is trying to replicate this kind of high defensive line in Barcelona, but doesn't have the quality in the back four that he had in Bayern. He understands that, but that's his A game plan. He doesn't have a plan B. We saw against Inter what happened. We saw Dumfries scoring 2-3 goals in Camp Nou, appearing alone on the defensive line of Barcelona. We saw this year Barcelona having a lot of difficulties, even with Newcastle, and then arranging because Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and Lewandowski are better than the defensive line of Newcastle. That's why the game ended 7-2. And then we saw Barcelona getting 2 red cards, one in each leg against Athletic Madrid because Alvarez in the first leg and Darlot in the second leg, they were wide open alone in the defensive line because Kubarsi or another player has to run behind them, after them, because why? Because the line is too high. But even if they are young, they don't have the experience to accelerate or try to not make the foul for a red card. It's very risky. It worked in Bayern. It's not working in Barcelona in the Champions League. It's working in La Liga. But you see a lot of times, and last year, Barcelona doing a lot of remontada, a lot of comebacks, losing 2 and coming back because of the defensive line is not ready, doesn't have the quality or experience that the 2020 Bayern squad had to play like this. I think Hansi will have to change. I think he will have to adapt or buy, which I don't believe because Barcelona is bankrupt at the moment, buy world-class elite defenders that have the capacity to understand how that line works. Everybody sees how it works. And Simeone, he didn't fall on that trap and he got away to the semifinals. Now he lost. But I think it's very German football. The high pressure, the gegenpressing, like Klopp used to say. Dortmund. We remember Borussia Dortmund from Jurgen Klopp. You remember? Super defensive, super aggressive defensive line. Super aggressive all the time. Aggressive.
Let's look at Bayern's. Let's still stay with Bayern, Bundesliga, Bayern, Champions League. Now, Bayern can steamroll Bundesliga sides. We've seen that. They've scored, I think, 117 Bundesliga goals, which is a record. Again, they've broken their own record. However, elite Champions League sides, like PSG, they punish every mistake. has Bayern's domestic dominance maybe been hiding some of the cracks? I mean, PSG attacked every inch behind Bayern's back line, and even club legends like Oli Kahn, they've been saying all along that the Bayern squad is too small, and especially
agree.
they've been saying that the Bayern bench hasn't got the big names to come on like PSG. They bring on world-class players. So that is a big problem. So do you think that has Bayern's Bundesliga dominance masked Bayern's real problems? They miss somebody, I think, like Javi Martinez, the holding midfielder. I don't think Pavlovic and Kimmich, who disappeared completely on Wednesday, I don't think that they're strong enough in the holding midfield positions.
I
So
agree.
basically, has Bayern's dominance in the Bundesliga, has it masked some of their problems that they have?
No, I don't. I don't completely agree because, well, Real Madrid came in the quarterfinals. They saw the small spots where they could attack with Vini and Mbappe cutting that defensive line. But in the end, Bayern has better players today in front than Real Madrid. That's why the front three, Olise, Harry Kane, and Luis Diaz, combined have scored over 100 or 110 goals. And even though Bayern is breaking their own record in Bundesliga, Bayern are 5 goals away from breaking the Barcelona 2012 record season of 182 goals in all competitions. Bayern have 175, I think, whatever, 176. They're short goals away, maybe with only being left one game of the Bundesliga and the DFB Pokal final against Stuttgart, which will be a difficult game, prepared Bayern Munich. But I think Bayern Munich, I think that's not a mess because since the pandemic, Bayern Munich in the group stages have always swept, always 18 points, always winning. This year they lost to Arsenal in specific conditions. Some players were injured. They even, don't forget, Bayern beat Paris with 2 goals of Luigi's in the first half. He got a red card, which was debatable. And that foul, that tackle with Hakimi. And we saw a fresher and a different Bayern in Parc des Princes. We didn't see Paris being capable of making damage to the defense. But of course, we can also say, is it too much optimistic? Was it a little bit arrogant saying, yeah, when you come to Allianz Arena, we'll play the same style and we're going to kill you because we're Bayern. And let's be if Nuno Mendes is getting the red card, let's not talk about the penalty. If Nuno Mendes, for me, who escaped 2 times the red card, if Nuno Mendes is coming out, for me, Paris would have won the game easily because Paris playing in over 80 minutes in Allianz Arena, less one player, even winning 1-0, you know that Bayern would push them against the box
So
and would.
you think they would have lost the game with the red card for Nuno Mendes?
Yeah, I believe.
But
Because, and
PSG
one thing I don't like
to point to the fact that in the Club World Cup, remember, Bayern played PSG. PSG got 2 red cards in that game, but they still managed to beat Bayern 2-0. That's how they argue.
That's true, but I still remember Donnarumma sending almost to hospital Musiala and no red card and no penalty in the first half with the game 0.
Not almost. He did send him to hospital. Not almost.
He did send him to hospital.
And talking about Musiala, he's still not back to his best.
No,
Let me just ask you one last question about PSG. Now, most of this squad is still under 28. So they're going to be around for a long time. Now, if they win the Champions League back-to-back for a second time, are we watching the start of a new dynasty in European football?
It can happen. Why not? The last time we saw a team winning at least 2 in a row was Real Madrid with Karim Benzema, Gareth Bale, and Cristiano Ronaldo, which went on to win 3 in a row. In 2017, 2018, different structure. I believe Luis Enrique will stay at Paris Saint-Germain. And if we're going to see it, looking at the transfer market, the team is almost the same as last year. No big superstar was added this year. They still have Kvaratskhelia, Desiré Doué, Ousmane Dembélé, Barcola on the bench, Gonçalo Ramos having not so many minutes, but when he is called, he's answering with goals. That's the truth. He's not a 30 goal machine player every year, but he's scoring in the big moments when he's called. I think if they have to arrange a replacement for Marquinhos. I think Marquinhos wasn't that big of a defensive help. I think Luis Diaz, for me, in the 180 minutes, Luis Diaz, for me, was the best Bayern Munich player, and Upamecano. I think he did two good games. But Luis Diaz, I think he was the superstar for Bayern in both legs. And Marquinhos was never able to, even with the experience with closing the gap, he was never able to delete the Luis Diaz effect on the game. I think that they need a new guy to play on with Pacho, the guy that came from Eintracht Frankfurt, which when we talked during the week, I didn't even know he had the MVP trophy from Champions League, but he was. I told you he was the MVP for me. He did an amazing job. He shadowed completely. He ghosted Harry Kane. I almost forgot Harry Kane played like this sometimes for Tottenham. I forgot that
And for
wasn't a
England
Bayern.
sometimes.
And for England sometimes.
Yeah.
But Pacho is fresh, it's strong, it's quick.
Dynasty.
Depends if they can keep players like Vitinha, João Neves, Dembele. I think Dembele will not leave because he already came from a bigger club, which is true. Barcelona didn't work. And now let's see if someone is leaving. Of course, Paris have the money, have the structure, but they're not Real Madrid. But let's see if they win back to back. Let's see if Luis Enrique is saying, yeah, I've done everything I could, or let's keep going. Let's invest more and let's try to go for a third, fourth, or fifth. Let's see. Let's try to compete.
Let's look at the three finals. 3 English sides. That's a record. Arsenal face PSG in the Champions League. Aston Villa, they've reached the final, of course, of the Europa League, and Crystal Palace have reached the final of the Conference League. Now, that is surprising because these clubs aren't owned by state money. They've got money, of course, but it's not state money. Did that surprise you to see 3 English sides reach the final?
My surprise was when Aston Villa lost the first leg to Nottingham Forest, because Aston Villa, for me, besides Pep Guardiola, let me say this correctly. Yeah, after Pep Guardiola, Aston Villa has the best manager in the Premier League, the second best manager,
Unai
Emery. A lot of people said, yeah, he didn't win the Europa League with Arsenal. Who won a big competition with Arsenal? Not even Arsene Wenger.
So
Unai Emery
now has got the chance. They face Freiburg, of course, of the Bundesliga. That is another sensation that Freiburg actually reached the final. That is really something. So plenty to look forward to in the next week.
Advantage, Aston Villa because of the coach, not because Aston Villa has superstar quality. But Alex, today we're going to have we're going to have a decision. If it's not this week, next week. Super El Clásico, Barcelona, Real Madrid. Today, the big news, Hansi Flick's father passed away. They're reporting Hansi Flick will still be in the match. Kylian Mbappé outside because of injury. The guy that has the, I don't know how to call it, a campaign to cancel him from Real Madrid, a petition with over 50 million signatures. Of course, not all of them are from Real Madrid, but some are, of course. And if today Barcelona wins or ties, a draw, gets a point, for the first time in over than 120 years of rivalry, Barcelona can win the La Liga, can be crowned champion in the game against Real Madrid. Wow.
I'm going to put the television on soon and watch the Clásico.
And, of course, the big story since this last week, Jose Mourinho, the special one, or the chosen one, or the happy one, coming back to Real Madrid. Do you think he's of course, I'm not going to ask you if he's better than Arbeloa, because that question would be nonsense. But do you think he's the right guy, Jose Mourinho?
No, that decision smacks of desperation. It just shows the situation Real Madrid are in. To get Jose Mourinho, legendary coach, but I think he's well past his sell-by date. He's not going to bring anything new. The only thing he could bring is, of course, discipline. He can be very authoritarian, but I think long-term, Jose Mourinho is not the solution for Real Madrid. They'll have to start really putting their thinking caps on and start to think of another coach.
Who do you think is the right guy? After Xabi Alonso was put into fire, I would say, because when Xabi Alonso left, he was top 8 Champions League, fighting toe-to-toe with Barcelona, had beaten Barcelona for the first time in 3 years, Real Madrid, in La Liga, but someone didn't like him or some superstars, and he walked away.
Well, it's a very difficult question because it's the toughest job in European football, coaching Real Madrid. I'd say Jurgen Klopp is still on the market in a certain way. He's at Leipzig, of course, but the question is, would that really fit? Would Jurgen Klopp really fit at Real Madrid? I don't think so. I cannot think of anybody on the market at the moment. Maybe it would have to be another Spanish coach who knows La Liga well, but I can't think. I mean, they failed with Alonso. That was for me the big mistake. They should have stuck by Alonso, but they got rid of him far too early, and now they're in the mess. And Jose Mourinho, for me, is not the answer.
Let me close this week's episode podcast with a very strong name. I would love to see Julian Nagelsmann coaching Real Madrid.
Okay.
I think the mentality, the attacking play, and how he played in Leipzig and Bayern would adapt perfectly, would fit like a glove in Real Madrid. I think they need new blood, a guy hungry, a guy that knows a little bit of football, with all the respect, Arbeloa, not you. And I think he would do an amazing job in Real Madrid.
We'll see how he does in the World Cup with Germany. Speak to you soon, Antonio.
Speak to you soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of Alex and Dutch Talk Football. See you next time.